When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Trudy Mason sitting in for Elias as we look at the very, very, very long list of people awaiting a government decision on their application for permanent residency in this country in the humanitarian category. So the NDP MP, Jenny Kwan, has been making a big deal out of this. According to her numbers, 73,000 people on that list as of May. And you know what really ticks me off about this is that in that category are some of the people who we relied upon to save our lives during the COVID crisis. They went in and worked in long-term care homes, in hospitals. They did all kinds of jobs. They mopped the floor. They provided security. They did all kinds of tasks. And now we're letting them twist in the wind for years on end. Some estimates are they may wait up to 7 years to get an answer. And during that time, you can understand how unsettling it is not to know whether you'll get status as a permanent resident. We welcome to studio this morning to help discuss this question, immigration lawyer Patrice Brunet. Welcome.
Good morning, Trudy.
Or welcome back, I should say. You've been heard on our airwaves before. You mentioned to our producer, Lola, that you had some crunchy data to add to our question. What do you mean by crunchy data? What kind of numbers?
I did. Listen, I mean, it's great that Jenny Kwan asked a question and she got the numbers for the backlog files. 73,000 backlog files in Canada as of May 2024. I'm on the Quebec Immigration Lawyers Association, and one of my colleagues, Benjamin Bruno, crunched the data for Quebec. And in Quebec, as of February 1st, 2024, we had 14,800 as a backlog. But that's one thing. The other thing is you have to combine that with the Legault goals or targets to admit those. And under the Quebec plan for 2024, they're going to admit 450 of them. Under the 2025 plan, they're going to admit 750 of them. Those numbers are very low. We projected the delays of processing for these people and taking us to 2027, if those numbers still are not changed, hopefully they'll change, they're going to be getting permanent residence in 34 years.
That's mind-boggling.
We can't. This is not sustainable. So we're the canary in the coal mine, if you want to call this, but I'm sure that they have the projections and the figures. We can't let those people stay in Canada on a temporary status, just waiting. 34 years. That's ridiculous.
In your experience, are they allowed to work while they're waiting? They're integrating. Their kids are going into Quebec schools. They're acquiring French. They're doing everything that they're supposed to be doing for a full integration into society, and yet they may wait a decade or more, 2 decades for an answer.
Let's call it a generation, can we? More than a generation. 34 years. That's the time to have kids. So these delays are just, and you're asking, can those people work? Yeah, of course they can work. They have the CSQ. They have the Certificat de Sélection du Québec. So they've already been selected. They've already been approved by the government of Quebec. But the government of Quebec, through the back door, is telling Immigration Canada, do not release the permanent residents. And there's an ongoing case right now in front of the federal court, the mandamus application that's ongoing, to force the federal government to release those permanent residence visas, to allow those people to go on with their lives and to build their lives, to buy a home. If you ask for a mortgage and you only have a CSQ, you're on a temporary status in Canada, The bank will look at you and say, come back when you have a permanent resident status, of course. So that's unsustainable. They're not illegal people. They're, like you said in the preamble, these people have helped us in the healthcare system, but also they're fully integrated into companies. They have work permits. They can work. Once they have a CSQ, they can have a work permit that's going to be constantly renewed as long as the as long as the application is being processed. So those people are not asking for charity. They're not begging for anything. They're paying their taxes. It's just, it has to be managed much, much, much better.
Do you conclude, as I have concluded, that this is politically motivated?
Oh, as far as Quebec's concerned, yes. I'll give a pass to the federal government because they've doubled their staff over the past few years. They've assigned more people to process those applications. They're still at 2 or 3 years processing delays at the federal level, up to 7 years for now. I think that they're doing their fair share, but the Quebec government has taken a very hard stance recently over the past year and applied ceilings, not just for this category, for other categories as well. And it just doesn't make sense. Yes, it's politically motivated. And to a certain sense, I think it's illegal. There's a Canada-Quebec agreement that dates back to 1991 where Quebec can fix their targets and their ceilings, but in proportion of their demographics in Canada. And they're not close to reaching that. So we're not admitting enough immigrants. And it's not as if we can't integrate them. We can. We're talking about, in absolute numbers, we're talking about less than 0.0001% of the population in Quebec. So it's not as if those people will destroy the fabric of our society or of our culture.
And if they've already integrated, it means that they're working and they're learning French. Their kids are learning French in school. You'd think that these would be exactly the type of people that would be highest on the list.
They are. So we have to go back to our values. What are our values in Quebec? They're values of integration, of acceptance, of moving forward with the people who are on our territory, and that we've pre-approved. We've issued CSQs to those people. That means that the government of Quebec has accepted them. But of course, government of Quebec cannot finalize the application. That's the federal government. But then through the back door or behind the curtain, Quebec is telling the federal, just don't release a permanent residence yet. Just keep them in limbo until, because we've reached our targets for this year. You can't apply those targets to human people and to families.
Can you tell us about the status of the Ukrainians who came here? Are they came here on a temporary visa from Ottawa? Are some of them now seeking admission permanently to Canada on humanitarian grounds, or what's their status? So
they were admitted on an urgent visa. They're allowed to work for up to 3 years. That was back in 22, so that expires in 25. There's no program yet that gives them a roadmap to permanent residence. So they're waiting. There's been so many who have been admitted to Canada that there has to be a roadmap, but it has yet to have been proposed and approved.
The prevailing winds are not in favor of generosity either.
Well, no, they're not. I guess they're more. They have better chances outside of Quebec than in Quebec. I assume that Quebec will. If the policy continues the same direction, there's going to be caps. There's going to be ceilings on that as well. It would be great to give them some sort of certainty. Now, if the conflict is completely resolved in Ukraine, and even if it's resolved, the country's destroyed. I mean, where will they go back to? Their home is destroyed. It would be great news if the federal government just announced that this is the roadmap. All right, you've been here, you've been integrated, you can have permanent residence within a matter of months or maybe a year.
Well, I guess we're going to have to keep both the fingers on both hands crossed on that score, right, for the Ukrainians and for everyone in the humanitarian category. Thank you very much to Patrice Brunet for coming into studio to talk about us.
Thank you, Trudy.